Hello and welcome to AP Dynamics Leadership Academy. My name is Audrey and I'll be your tour guide for all things leadership, team building, and performance improvement. If you're ready to transform from know-it-all to learn-it-all, then grab a seat, grab a snack, and check your defenses at the door. Welcome to your next chapter. Hello, welcome to today's episode of AP Dynamics Leadership Academy, How Bad Bosses Build Great Leaders. Sticky stuff, right? We all want a great boss. No one wakes up in the morning, stretches their little arms, hops out of bed with a smile and says, "Gosh, I just can't wait to see what my terrible, awful, completely toxic train wreck of a boss has in store for me today." And if you do, I want to know what you're caffeinating with and also would like to perform a wellness check. Because I'm all for learning from a bad experience, but no one should be that excited to spend their day getting their butt kicked. In fact, nothing motivates me to stop engaging faster than a bad boss. I think that's true of most of us. We want to work with people we like, or at least people we get along with, who we respect, who make us feel seen, valued, appreciated. And that's the experience we all deserve, truly. Whether you're a high performer who's motivated to climb the ladder or not, every person deserves to work on a team where they feel valued, respected, and don't dread going to work every day because your boss is a royal pain and you just know you're going to get hit with 12 new fires before 10 a.m. I've been there. It's awful. 12 out of 10 do not recommend. I've had some great bosses. I really have, but I've had far more bad ones. It's a big reason why I'm so passionate about people leadership and helping people grow into being better leaders. I know the impact a bad manager can have on someone's physical health and mental well-being. And it causes a ripple effect because then you're looking at more frequent sick days. The way you interact with your family or your partner or your friends is impacted. Your confidence can get shaken. And depending on how bad the situation is, you can walk away with some legitimate trauma and reactive behaviors that carry into your next role. All that to say, I've definitely learned a lot and picked up behaviors and skills from mentors and leaders I admire. Thank goodness. I've had the opportunity to connect and learn from some really incredible leaders, both in my corporate career and also in my past life in academia. The impact that those leaders have had on me goes well beyond me, though. Every person I interact with or team member I coach or organization I come in and consult for is also impacted by the interactions I've had with those leaders because, like it or not, everything you do creates a ripple effect. You have incredible power to spread growth and positivity. It's astounding when you think about it. Just one moment in time can impact so many other people for the rest of your lives, the rest of their lives. At the same time, the bad bosses I've dealt with taught me far more application skills, especially when I was a new leader, than anything I learned to apply while on high-performing teams. Because when you deal with a bad boss, you get to see and experience the impact of their actions, or lack of actions in some cases, on a deep level that acts like a roadmap with big flashing neon signs of how not to lead a team. It's almost like dating in a way. Sometimes it's easier to identify what you want after you experience something you don't want. Once you know what gives you the ick, you're a little clearer on what you want to avoid. The key here is what you do with the information you get while experiencing bad management. Are you going to stew over it, gossip with your coworkers, let it drive you into the ground, or are you going to take that behavior, look at it, and say, wow, this is a really great example of something I never want to do with my own team, and then carry that lesson with you into the future? The same boiling water that hardens the egg softens the potato, It's all about perspective. Now, does that mean you need to stay in a toxic work situation or allow someone to continuously disrespect you? Absolutely not. But having a bad manager is a learning opportunity that you can use to guide your own leadership practices. And there are some foundational skills you can develop and take away from the experience. The first thing, develop a roadmap, okay? Take the behavior you're experiencing or that you're seeing other people experiencing, use it as a how not to guide. Seriously, it sounds silly, but take a few minutes and draft a leadership manifesto. If you're a leader and you've never drafted one of these, I 12 out of 10 recommend. Not only does it give you a direction and a base of operation, so to speak, but it's something you can use as an onboarding tool when you have new hires. You can use it to give your team a tool to measure your effectiveness by and hold you accountable. There are just so many benefits to going through the practice of crafting one. I'm not going to go super in depth during this episode, but we can take a deep dive in a dedicated episode and pull together some templates and helpful thought starters later on. For this exercise, though, document what drives you as a leader, how you treat your team, even if it's aspirational, how your team feels about you and the department culture, and then go through those items and say, okay, what behaviors could put this outcome at risk? You're going to be able to come up with some really solid examples thanks to the experience you've had with bad management. Now, the flip side of this is taking those behaviors and also thinking through how you would handle the situation differently and what the impact will be. There's a really big difference between being a bad boss and being an ignorant leader. A lot of bad bosses don't care about the impact their actions have on their teams and how that ultimately impacts the broader company. An ignorant leader is someone who often has good intent, they just don't understand the impact their actions and decisions have on their team yet. So get a step ahead. Make sure when you're analyzing behavior or setting intent that you're also thinking through impact, because that's going to help you cut down on a lot of emotional noise and also keep you in the mindset of data-driven leadership. You don't need direct reports to be a leader, okay? You don't need to have a manager title. You don't have to have people reporting to you. Leadership is a mindset. You do need a strong sense of integrity and the ability to influence. And uncomfortable as it may be, sometimes that influence has to go up rather than down. And that's the next vital skill you can build when you're dealing with bad management. Most people are used to receiving feedback and criticism from their boss. It starts from the top, trickles down, right? They aren't used to offering feedback to their boss. So the inverse of that, starting at the bottom and going up. So this is already a situation where many people are going to feel anxious and uncertain. It's also a key pillar of leadership. If your boss's behavior is impacting team morale, productivity, culture, etc., then it's also going to impact the business's bottom line. Assume positive intent, lead with curiosity, and share your observations and feedback with your boss in a one-on-one setting. Do not do this in a group situation. Bring it to a one-on-one. Make sure you have specific examples to reference, including the impact, and go into the conversation with the intent to help both you and your boss have a better understanding of what's driving the situation and how you can work together to achieve the desired outcome. Don't go into it heated and looking for a fight. That's not going to work out well for anyone. A coaching conversation is going to sound different based on whatever issue is that you're handling and your relationship and rapport with your boss. But a coaching conversation is not a fight. It is not a criticism conversation. It's an opportunity for feedback and growth. So regardless of your situation and what you're trying to solve for, a good framework to keep in mind is when you do X, I feel or notice Y. Is that your intent? Rooted in curiosity, call out the specific behavior, call out the specific impact, and then give them an opportunity to open the conversation and engage with you further. There's a dedicated coaching series on the way, so if you struggle with those conversations, have never had one, or just want to brush up on your skills, make sure you're subscribed to AP Dynamics Substack and the podcast so you don't miss it. Coaching conversations are so foundational to any org. So I'm really excited to launch that series, especially the templates and conversations you can listen to so you can hear it in practice. I personally love reading. I don't think there's anything in this world I can't do if there's a book written about it or if you give me a set of instructions. But there's something about seeing or hearing a skill being applied that really helps it sink in. So I'm excited to bring those forward. All right. I don't know any good leaders or aspiring leaders who I would classify as quitters. It's just not in our nature. I think there is something freakish in our DNA where that gene, for whatever reason, doesn't exist. You can argue whether you think leaders are born or made all day long, but you cannot deny that there is a different type of resilience and go-getter, up for the challenge mentality that people who make it in leadership have. The next skill is going to require you to lean into that because you're going to acknowledge the obstacle and then pave a path forward. When you come to a brick wall and it's blocking your destination, you don't give up just because there's something in the way. If you're driving and the road is blocked, you don't just turn around and go home, right? You take a detour or find another route so you can get where you need to go. Your bad boss is your wall. Flex your strategic skills and identify if the best path forward is going over the wall, around the wall, through the wall, maybe even under the wall. You might need to get really creative for that one, but where there's a will, there's a way. Once you identify the path you want to take, lean into your communication skills, lean into your influence and cross-functional partnerships, and show up on that path as the problem-solving leader you are, because you can do this. Leadership is a mindset. I like to think of it as a muscle, and these are muscles you're going to use the rest of your career. So lean in, practice them now. Let's be honest, bad bosses are the number one reason people leave jobs, okay? So why not build some skills and practice in a job you and I both know isn't your final career stop? I'll get off my soapbox now. I just know how hard it can be to find something positive to hold on to when you hate your job and you hate your boss. Even when it's a temporary situation, it's really easy to lose sight of the fact that it is a temporary situation and you do have the choice to change things, right? Moving on. Only you know your current situation, but I will caveat this whole over, under, around analogy to say, I would never try to go over someone without addressing the issue with them first. Position yourself as a problem solver and strategic leader by showing you've taken steps to solve the problem prior to going above them. It's much more professional and respectful that way. The first question that I ask when someone sets a skip level or peer meeting with me to talk about their boss is, have you talked to so-and-so about what you're experiencing? If you haven't, the first thing I'm going to do is confirm if this is a safety issue or something HR needs to be involved in, right? There are certainly times when someone might not feel safe bringing concerns to their boss, and I get that. Like it or not, there are bad players out there, and the fear of retaliation is a very real thing. I would argue that more often than not, though, avoiding this conversation is less of a safety-based fear choice and more of a fear of conflict. So if you have true concerns about how your boss would react, absolutely, please ladder that up. If that's the case, my next move is going to be a deeper investigation of the situation and aligning on a path forward that accounts for your discomfort. If you haven't talked to your boss directly, and it's not an HR type situation though, I'm going to hear you out, but ultimately my guidance will be to talk to your direct boss. I can give you talking points and help you frame the conversation, but as a leader, my expectation would be that you're capable of handling conflict in a constructive way and building respectful working relationships. Even when I mentor young professionals and aspiring leaders, I listen, offer talking points and framing, but ultimately solving the problem and having the conversation or choosing a path forward is something only you can do. And if you're an established leader, I guide you to take similar action. If we step in and solve every problem and provide every answer, then our younglings never learn to problem solve or make decisions without us. And ultimately, we want to help them grow their confidence, right? Not make them reliant on us. So step one is having the difficult conversation. Oh man, this next one's a real doozy. And maybe it's less difficult for different generations, but knowing when to walk away is 100% one of the hardest lessons I learned, even before I was in leadership. And early on in my career, I absolutely stayed in the wrong rooms with the wrong bosses for way longer than I should have, because I, being the wee babe that I was, would fluctuate between this notion of, well, if I just try harder, I can fix this. If I just work those extra hours, take on that extra project, pick up the slack, do the work for someone else, let them take credit for my wins. If I just accept that this is corporate, I'm going to stop you right there, wee baby Audrey. Not everything is a challenge you have to overcome. Not everything is a race you need to win or can win. Not every wall is one you need to climb. So let your bad boss or toxic job give you the confidence to know when to walk away. There are going to be times when you do everything right and it will not matter. It will not be enough. You can scale the wall, and by the time you reach the top, you are battered and bruised and still don't feel like you've accomplished what you set out to. Be strong in your own character. Have boundaries for what you'll tolerate, how hard you're willing to push to get what you want, and what you absolutely will not tolerate, and then stick to it. My own walkaway boundaries are rooted in trust, respect, and integrity. I cannot and will not, quite frankly, function in an organization that doesn't value and operate with trust, respect, and integrity. And sometimes that looks like keeping leadership on staff who knowingly overlook lying or intent to harm others. Even if the company looks great on paper, okay, and they have a shiny mission statement, the behavior they allow across their leadership team will tell you what they truly value. It's your job to observe the behavior, decide if it aligns with your leadership values, and then take appropriate action either way. It took me a really long time to get it through my thick head that walking away is not the same as giving up. It doesn't mean you didn't give it your all or try hard enough. Sometimes it's acknowledging that things really just aren't a good fit, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with walking away from a situation that is doing you harm or isn't serving you. Now, on the less dire side of this, knowing when to walk away is a skill you'll bring into your day-to-day beyond quitting or staying at a job. You're going to use this on a more granular level, and when you start flexing this particular muscle, man, oh man, the doors that are going to open. Day-to-day looks like learning when to say no to a project. It really is that granular and that simple. It's knowing how to read the room and making the move to end a meeting because there's no changing the outcome. I've heard this referred to as knowing when to cut your losses, determining if the juice is worth the squeeze. I'm sure there are a lot of phrases floating around out there, but the application of critical thinking, emotional intelligence, problem solving, and overall influence are at the core of this, no matter what you call it. Another key learning that applies to what I call sticky situations or sticky wickets, and also day-to-day application, is the ability, quite frankly, consistent practice of documentation. Now, every person who's currently in leadership just let out a collective groan, I guarantee you, because this is, for so many of us, the bane of our existence. It is an administrative nightmare, and depending on what type of department you run, whether you're marketing, sales, IT, your documentation is going to look different, and so is the workload that comes from it. But document. This is a severely overlooked skill in leadership and the workplace in general. And the skills you gain here can look a few different ways depending on the type of situation or bad boss you're dealing with. But core documentation skills you can and should take away are document your wins. Start a running file and capture screenshots, weekly notes, project feedback you receive from other people, things like that. Document your wins. When annual evaluations and reviews come around, you are going to thank past you for doing the heavy lifting because it's basically drag and drop at that point. And now you've got a record of all the incredible contributions you've made to the team and the company right there at your fingertips whenever you need it. From a logistics standpoint, this is kind of a no-brainer in terms of the benefits you're going to get from this, especially for things like reviews, promotions, even during seasons of layoffs and job insecurity. Hello, this is your file for HR to justify your position, or heck, easy stats to pull together to update your resume. But beyond logistics, this is a really good practice to engage in because when you're struggling at work or struggling with bad management, you're not going to get the positive reinforcement you need or acknowledgement of your accomplishments. I personally keep one of these regardless of my leadership situation because when you're having a bad day, when you make a mistake or you just need a pick-me-up, it is such a confidence boost to have an entire folder full of things you've accomplished. Kind words people have shared about you, successes that you've had. You have all of this at your fingertips now. So no matter what you're facing, all you have to do is open that folder and bam, there's your confidence boost. There's your little recharge before you ride off into your proverbial battle. Small thing, big impact, right? The other thing you need to document is oh yeah, your wins. And yes, it's the same thing I just told you, except that it isn't. Because the first one is documenting wins for you. This is all about documenting your wins to other people. Have you ever heard the saying, and this could be a Southern thing, the squeaky wheel gets the grease? It's exactly what it sounds like. When things are going smoothly, you don't think about the wheels that are performing well. It's when one starts squeaking that you remember to pay attention to it. Be the squeaky wheel. Learn how the important players in your company prefer to receive updates, and then make sure your wins and contributions are part of those updates. Maintain a steady presence to stay top of mind, and establish your value and expertise. This is going to help you build credibility. You can be the smartest, hardest worker in the room and still get passed over or go unnoticed if the right people don't understand your impact. So be the squeaky wheel. Learn how to get your contributions in front of the right people. These are also multi-directional, but the last one we're going to talk about is documenting conversations and situations that have an HR impact. This is the one that everybody groans on because it's really a pain. We'll just call it what it is. It's a pain. So it's definitely a skill set to learn how to do this appropriately. A lot of leaders and teammates don't learn they need to do this until something comes up and our good buddies in HR go, is it documented anywhere? And then cue the deer in the headlight look. Don't be the deer. Learn how to recap your one-on-one meetings, your conversations, and any sticky wicket situation so you and the person you're interacting with have a paper trail. You do not want to get caught in a situation where someone is claiming they've been talking to you about a performance issue for months, but you have no idea what they're talking about, or the inverse. Maybe you've been coaching someone through a performance issue for a few months and there's been no improvement, so it's time to pull in HR to take next steps. Without those one-on-one recaps or documented incidents, HR is going to hit you with the adorable, cartoon slow blink. You know what I'm talking about? So learn how to document those things and get in the habit of doing it now. It doesn't always have to be a super serious situation, the things that you need to document and ways that you can practice and build this muscle. Something as simple as sending a follow-up email, recapping action items, and align next steps from a meeting can give you something to refer back to as like a high-level project plan, but it also documents who agreed to do what by when if anyone conveniently forgets. This one sounds particularly negative, and I know a lot of people feel like it's a pain, but unfortunately, it's just the reality. It's the reality of the world that we're living in. And confirming what you got out of a meeting, offering recaps, and documenting sticky situations, developing the skills and confidence to do those things well will save you time and time again, especially when you're in work situations where trust is scarce. All right, key takeaways. Problem solving, conflict resolution, and strategic influence are core skills of leadership. So is finding a silver lining in an otherwise awful situation and finding a way to motivate others. So if you're dealing with a bad boss or toxic leadership, use it as an opportunity to stretch and develop your own leadership skills. There's always going to be someone on a team or department you don't like or enjoy working with. That is just part of it, unfortunately. But learning to communicate effectively, regulate your own emotions, diffuse situations, and engage in constructive feedback conversations will allow you to manage up and influence change, creating a better work environment for you and the people you work with, because our words and our actions really do create a ripple effect. So at the risk of being cliche, be the good, be the change. If you want things to be different, it really does start with you. Let's add a few more ripples to the pond. Help your colleagues or downline develop their own leadership and team building skills. Share a link to today's episode or send them over to apdynamics.substack.com. This is a new channel, so you sharing and engaging helps us grow and get this content in front of people who might not have the opportunity or, quite frankly, the financial means to attend one of our live sessions and events. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping others have access to tools to grow and become better leaders. And thank you for choosing to bring your best self to your team. Stay curious, assume positive intent, and enjoy the journey to learn it all. I'll see you in the next one.